I'm Jeff Cook with UGA Extension in Taylor County, and we're here in a food plot of record buck beans with Liberty Link technology. We're going to talk a little bit about some food plot herbicide applications, especially in soybeans. You know, a lot of people are used to Roundup Ready technology. You know, Roundup Ready technology allows you to spray Roundup over the top of tolerant crops, whether it's soybeans, cotton, or even corn. Kill the weeds, but it will not hurt the crop, will not cause injury to the crop. So you can control a lot of weeds that way. You know, glyphosate is a very broad spectrum herbicide that kills a lot of things. The problem is, if you're in our neck of the woods, when I say our neck of the woods, I mean the southeast. If you're anywhere in the southeast, you're dealing with resistant weeds, such as pigweed. Pigweed is the number one, resistant weed that we deal with in summer agronomic crops. Me personally, I don't mind seeing some pigweed in my food plot if it's soybeans, because I don't really care if I have a really good looking field. But if you spend a lot of money on, a drill or a planter, and you really want to have just a field of soybeans, having some herbicide applications, some herbicide tools you can use to clean it up is nice. This field right here, luckily, is Liberty technology, and you can look down here and you can see there is a lot of pigweed that popped up that came through the pre-emerged products that were put out, at planting or prior to planting. If you had a Roundup Ready technology or Roundup Ready bean out here, the only thing you could spray, you could spray Roundup post-emerge, which would kill grasses, it'd kill some sickle pod, it'd kill some of the other weeds out here. But this pigweed that's out here right now, it's not going to touch. It's going to just laugh at it and just keep on going through. The fact that these are Liberty, it gives you the option, hey, now I can come out here and I can spray Liberty, and I say Liberty, you can spray glufosinate. It might be Cheetah, it might be Interline, it might be Liberty. There's a couple other products. Spray that over the top, 43 ounces per acre, add a surfactant. Hopefully this week would not be a great week to spray it. You need about 4 hours of good drying time. You want to have a good sunny day, high humidity. You don't want waterlogged soils. But you come out here and you can spray Liberty, 2 shots of 43 ounces and control most of these pigweed plus your other weeds. And if you had some escapes, you could come back and add some Roundup later to get your grasses and things like that. I like to recommend when I'm coming with a post-emerge application, because you drive through middle Georgia, anywhere in Georgia, and you see a soybean field or a cotton field or a corn, it's clean, the road middles are clean, there's no weeds out in the field. It's not from one application of glyphosate or one application of glufosinate. We're putting out a pre-emerge herbicide, usually at planting or close to it. And then in our post-emerge sprays, we're putting something with our post-emerge, which would be the Liberty. In this case, would be Liberty. So we would put something in there with it, maybe like a dual or metolachlor product. That's going to help with subsequent flushes of weeds that come on throughout the year. And then there's grass herbicides that you can use as well. But having Liberty technology helps in our area. If you want to clean up problem weeds like this pigweed that we have resistance to. There's really no other, really recommendations with the Liberty. Add a surfactant. Ammonium sulfate helps if you can add that as your surfactant. But the kicker with it, the thing that makes it the hardest to use, is when you got good growing conditions for beans or good growing conditions for any crop, and you spray Liberty. You've got to have that drying time. If you get rain within 4 hours, you're going to have some failures, and it's not going to work like you want it to. So that's the main things. That's the one reason that a lot of the field crops that you see now have both Roundup and Liberty technology in them. So you can apply both of those products. Helps control the resistant weeds that we're dealing with. We found a good little chunk of pigweed just to kind of show you some things and talk about this actual weed. So all of this right here is pigweed. If you read the label, if you read any of the recommendations, and you read Liberty is good to excellent on pigweed. Good to excellent on pigweed means it's good to excellent on this pigweed. Okay? As you move into, 6-inch pigweed, it is not good to excellent. So you come out here and you apply your Liberty, you do everything right, sunny day, don't get rain on it. You can really expect that maybe 50% of these guys are going to die. Down here, you're looking at 95% of these will probably die. The key is coverage. So, if you're spraying and you're only putting out 10 gallons of water, it's going to be reduced even more. If you don't add a surfactant, it's going to be reduced more. So, I always tell people, slow down. Make sure you're putting at least 15 gallons of water out. 20 is probably better. if you can stand it, to get good coverage with Liberty products, with the glufosinate products. And just know you're not ever gonna get 100% of everything. That's one reason why we do recommend pre and post emerge products. The pre emerge product has to be in the soil, activated by usually rain, to be a barrier as these seeds germinate. The next flush of pigweed seed, as they germinate, the pre-emerge herbicide, which would be a dual, prior to planting, it would be like a Valor or flumioxazine. There's a bunch of other ones that act like prowls and treplans and things like that. They're pre-emerge. You get them out, you get them activated in the soil. They provide a barrier. Seed germinates, the germinating point of that plant dies as it hits the chemical. Post emerge has to be sprayed on a weed that's out of the ground. So you use the pre emerge to keep the total number. If you use a pre emerge, you keep the total number from make it actually smaller. So you reduce this by 90% with the pre-emerge, and then you can come back and it makes it easier to clean up with the post-emerge. If you don't apply these pre-emerge, then you end up with a ton more that you have to try and kill. And that 90%, if you have 100,000 plants per acre, 90% on that many coming up is not going to look as good as if you only have 20,000 come up because you put a pre-emerge out ahead of the weeds germinating. So that's the reason we use them. And if you want to really know, like in a row crop application field, we're probably trying to come back in after our first pre-emerge and first pre-emerge application. We're probably trying to come back in by 21 days and put another one out, just to give us a longer residual. And make it easier for what we apply post-emerge to actually do the work and control the weeds that do pop through. Last thing to talk about, and I should talk about anytime I talk about spraying anything on a crop or a pest, is calibration. So it's very important with any product, but especially this product right here. Very important that you get a high enough rate to kill the pigweed that's out here. 43 ounces is the max you can put out per application, and you can do that twice. But you really need to have your sprayer needs to be calibrated. You need to know exactly how much water you're putting out per acre, so you know how much to mix in that amount of water. If you are not familiar with calibrating sprayers, there will be a link up here on the screen that you can follow. You can look at another video that we did on calibrating sprayers that will help you get your sprayer set up. So you're actually controlling the pest you're trying to control, but also too, you're not wasting your time by under applying a pesticide, and you're not putting too much out, and going overboard with, that's just a waste of money, really. So one other thing to consider and think about or know is that when you do spray Liberty, especially if you mix it with anything else on a Liberty or a glufosinate resistant bean, you sometimes do get yellowing, sometimes you get leaf cupping, sometimes you get spotting. All of that's normal. It says it on the label, and there will be no reduction in growth. You may see it for a few days and then it will grow right out of it. We would not recommend it. UGA would not recommend these products if it caused any kind of damage that caused significant yield losses. So it might yellow it, might cup it, it might spot it. It's going to recover and be fine. So there's nothing to worry about there. Actually want it to spot it up. If it doesn't, you're not doing something right.